Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. This is Just True, a space where I talk about reinvention, renewal, and living your best life. I'm going to speak about my hair today. I'm going to speak about locks and the journey I went through to get these locks. It was not easy. For the first thing, I started my locks when I was in Denmark and I had nobody to help me do anything. I'll post a few pictures up to show you exactly what the beginning stages looked like, and it was a crazy time. Luckily, it was during Corona, so nobody saw me except my family who'd see me on Zoom calls and friends who would also see me on Zoom calls and they'd just be like, what's happening? And it was a really tough time because my hair had never looked like that. I've always been somebody who is quite neat and quite well kept together, I would say, but that lock period initially was a challenge in seeing myself for who I truly was, and in understanding that, as India said, we are not our hair. I'm not my hair. But I pushed on, and I had good days, I had bad days. I wore a lot of baseball caps, and slowly I pushed through all of that, and eventually I came up to the stage I'm at now. What can I say about beginning your own locks? I would say that it's a very simple process. I started without any help. It was just two strand twists that I left in, and up till now, they are the same two strand twists that I have. I would wash it regularly. I would wash it with anything in terms of a detergent. I didn't have any special shampoos or special anything, whatever is being marketed at the moment. I had none of that. Sometimes I would wash it with kitchen detergent. Sometimes I would wash it with hand soap. As long as that my scalp was clean and my hair was clean, that was my goal. And I never conditioned it because I found that conditioners leave residue in your hair and then it will start causing build-up to form, which is very difficult to remove, so I never did that. And what can I say that locks taught me? They taught me patience with myself, patience with how I look, patience with how I present myself to the world, patience with people's opinions about me, patience in just generally how I saw myself to be, because I knew what I wanted to look at the end. I always had an end goal in mind. And for many people, they didn't understand. And I would always get this question, oh, Gloria, what's up with your hair? All these snooty questions and snooping and people trying to give some fake assistance as if they're some sort of loctician, which incidentally, they're not. And I would ignore it and I would be patient with them. And for many of those people who came up with those comments, I still talk to them till now. And I'm not going to cut them off, then what? But I knew where I was going in terms of what I wanted my hair to look like. I have followed very many ladies on Pinterest and online, also on YouTube, that was a huge resource for me because there are ladies like, I forget her name, she's a loctician, Yana, I think, and her process is very simple. She's like, put your locks in, make sure your scalp stays clean, retwist it from time to time. Because semi-free-formed, I initially wanted to be free-formed, then I was like, I don't think I can add the courage to be fully free-formed. So that's why I chose to go semi-free-formed. But she's called Yana. Yeah, Yana the loctician. Should be like, once you twist her in, don't be twisting it all the time, fiddling with your hair all the time. It really doesn't help, and it will destroy the locking. It will destroy your hair during the locking process. So I just let my hair be. I let my hair be, and in turn, it grew into itself. Initially, they were less than 100, and I didn't like how my hair looked, and then I undid them, and then they became about 100 locks, which I think for me is fine. When I initially wanted to have locks, I thought of installing sister locks, but because I knew I was going to be doing my hair myself, I had nobody to retighten, and retightening sister locks is just a time and a cost wise. I was just not interested in having to go with that for the rest of my life, because I believe I'll have locks for the rest of my life. Incidentally, I installed my locks when Toni Morrison passed away, because I used to love her locks. I adored them. And when she passed away, I thought to myself, okay, now if not now, then when? Because her locks, I found them so beautiful, and she was fully gray. And I was like, when I'm 80 or 70, whatever, I really want to have my hair like that. So I decided to put the locks in now. As I said, I learned patience, a lot of patience with people, with things. And even now, I'll be explaining about my hair to my workmates, and they'll be asking me all sorts of questions. And of course, my workmates are European, so I indulged them with answers. But for many Africans who ask me some questions, I indulge them too, but not too much, because I know they know where they can find the information from. But patience with myself and patience with others was something that I had to build. And I like that because it has taught me patience with other things. On my 5th year now with these locks, and as I said, I'll have them as long as there's hair growing out of my head. And another thing I learned about locks is just to stay focused on your end goal, because I had on my Pinterest as well, I had pictures of ladies with their locks from different countries, and I could just imagine how my locks would look when they get to that stage. And it was very exciting when you can imagine those things, and when you can finally style your locks, it's a great feeling. And really, that's the story of my locks. I just feel, for me, that they brought an aspect in me that I didn't know I have, because I was always raised to be somebody who is always you always have to be looking prim and proper. And now I still think locks do look prim and proper. Sometimes when my locks grow out, because as I said, I'm semi-free-formed, I would think that, okay, Gloria, that's enough now. But then I've pushed it with retwisting my locks. Sometimes the longest I've gone without retwisting, I believe, is 6 months. It's quite something that I'm able to move through life with all that growth, and I'm fine. I really don't care about what anybody thinks about it. As long as I'm fine with how I look, that's all that matters to me. And that's about it. But what I thought was pretty funny when I realized that the locks were really coming together is once I was in Nairobi, and I took an Uber. I was riding an Uber, and the Uber asked me, "Wow, is that your hair?" And I told him, "Oh, it's my hair." And he's like, "You've not added anything to it?" I was, "No." But at that point, they weren't particular. I hadn't gotten to this length, and but I have always had a lot of hair, so maybe they were thick. I don't know what made him react that way. Then he said, "Wow, do you know you have an asset on your head?" And I was like, "An asset on my head?" And he said, "You can sell those for a lot of money." And that was the most hilarious thing I'd ever heard, because it had never occurred to me to grow the locks on my head to sell to other people. But if people wear human hair wigs from India or whatever, I guess locks can be sold. So we had a good laugh about it. And I've always thought, well, I have an asset then growing out of my head. And that's it about my locks. I don't know if anybody has any questions about locks, but it's such a fun process if you can go through it and if you have interest in it. But just be patient with yourself. That's all I'd say. Be patient. And there are people sometimes who braid their locks and do all these things to their locks. I did none of that. And I think I'm better for it, because I learned to my hair and myself despite how it looked. And I never wore wigs. I've never been a wig girl or a weave girl. So it was just me and my faith and my hair and my persistence and resilience. And yeah, that's it. That was the video for today. If anybody has questions about locks, I'd be happy to answer. And